You know that song, "The World is Gonna Roll"? Well, that's a little too cheery for this video because throughout history, there have been a lot of times when people thought the world was going to end. And in the Middle Ages, there were two moments when the entire world was convinced it was about to be plunged into an apocalyptic nightmare. And both times, people were very, very wrong. The first supposed end of the world was in the year 1000. And to be fair, up until that point, things were looking pretty apocalyptic. The world had been ravaged by the plague. There had been massive volcanic eruptions in Iceland. And in 999, a comet streaked across the sky, which was interpreted as a divine sign that the end was nigh. You see, the closer the world got to the year 1000, the more people began to believe that the biblical prophecy of the 6 days of creation was literally being flipped and the world would end in the year 1000, as it was in the beginning, chaos and darkness. So people started preparing for the apocalypse. They sold their property, gave away their money, did the whole "I'm off to find the fountain of youth" thing. And when the year 1000 rolled around and they were all still alive, they were pretty scared. But then nothing happened, and after a few weeks, life just kind of went back to normal. So obviously, that didn't stop people from thinking the world was going to end. Because in 1284, the friar saw another comet and started preaching that the world would end in 70 years, which, you know, is technically correct because it did eventually end in 1356. But that's not what he meant. He meant it was going to end in his lifetime. And again, people started preparing for the apocalypse. But then the year 1284 rolled around and the world kept on trucking. And at that point, people were like, all right, maybe we should find something else to worry about. For a while, there was a lull in apocalyptic predictions until 1524, when a book called The Prediction of the End of the World was published outlining not just one prophecy, but a whole bunch of them. It detailed astronomical events, wars, famines, and earthquakes that were all supposed to occur before the world ended in 1525. People were so convinced this time it was the real deal that they started a whole new religion based on the prophecy. It was called the New Prophecy, and its followers were known as the New Prophecies, or the New Prophecy. And they believed that all of the bad stuff that happened in the previous two prophecies was actually God's way of testing them to see who was worthy of entering the kingdom of heaven. And all of these people that flocked to the New Prophecy were like, oh, this is awesome. We're going to get to go to heaven. And then they all died in 1525 when the world didn't end.